Those guys, before we start today's video, I want to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. Who do you think is going to win? Why? And how many games? If you want to hear my prediction, just skip to the end of the video. We're going to start with the Thunder and then the Pacers. Let's get to it. Yo, what's going on, guys? Sorry if there's some background noise. I'm right now walking on the streets of Italy. I'm at Adidas Euro Camp covering, about to actually interview Derrick Rose in a few hours. Now, today we'll be doing our final preview of the NBA playoffs. Yes, the Indiana Pacers are going up against the Oklahoma City Thunder in this year's NBA Finals. I had a couple buddies who had already booked basically hotels in OKC and Indiana, and they're not even Pacers or Knicks fans, but they were like just saying they wanted it to be the Pacers because they didn't want to have to get refunds and pay an arm and a leg to stay in New York. But either way, I want to hear your guys' thoughts before we continue today's video. Who do you think is going to win this and why? I want to hear your opinions. I'm very interested in hearing, as to me, I'm very curious. This is going to be one of the most interesting NBA Finals. So to start it off, what we do here is we're going to break down the first. I just want to add about OKC right here before we go into our whole breakdown, is that when we look at the season series, the Thunder swept the season series 2-0 with 2 double-digit wins, and in March they dropped 132 points. Now, they also feature all defensive players, Lou Dort, J-Dub, and then Caruso, Holmgren, and Hartenstein. They can suffocate people, and SGA and J-Dub draw fouls, and if they can cause Nembhard and Nesmith and multiple of Indiana's perimeter defenders to foul early in the games, that's going to make their depth collapse. And then J-Dub is a killer in the mid-range, 96th percentile, and Miles Turner being a drop big is going to have some problems. And Hardenstein's a way more physical, and the Thunder just have a lot more size and physicality in their wheelhouse. So I just wanted to add that before we go into our huge breakdown. Couple minutes each team, so like 4 minutes for each team. I want to hear your opinion, who will win and how many games and why. Let's get right into this year's NBA Finals. So this is going to be a game that I think, or a series that's going to be interesting, as if we look at the Thunder were able in the regular season, without Chet Holmgren and Alex Caruso, they were able to beat the Pacers twice. And if you just look at the team's structures, both teams are able to play at all times with 4 dudes on the floor. Now, OKC is a team that is able to have an elite defense, and this defense was able to stop Anthony Edwards, one of the league's best players. And I'm scared, or I believe, they're going to try and probably have some success doing the same thing to Tyrese Haliburton, as Haliburton and Pascal Siakam, who are phenomenal basketball players, are going to have to be able to run through the wall of defenders. We're talking, Cason Wallace. We're talking Lou Dort. We're talking Caruso. We're talking Chet Holmgren. We're talking Shea. We're talking J-Dub. Some of those guys. And this is one of the league's most physical defense. And that's the same problem, as we just mentioned, awaiting Haliburton in the NBA Finals. And we saw the Knicks be able to do that in the game they won against the Pacers, where with desperate effort and just physicality, they're able to kind of make the Pacers or any of their opponents revert into a lesser form of themselves, just because they physically impose their will on defense. They basically keep smacking you. And I know some people are gonna be like, well, it's fouls, it shouldn't be called. And I don't know. I just think the whole thing to me is this defense is going to be key. Now, obviously, Shea is going to have to play at an MVP level, and he's going to need help. J-Dub and Chet have, picked it up in the beginning of the playoffs. You could argue they were a little bit of background noise, but his co-stars have improved their performances in comparison to how they were in the beginning of the playoffs. And the thing is, the Thunder are going to be using their defense to create their offense. And their offense is going to be spacing the floor whenever they're not getting to the free throw line. J-Dub and Shai are going to slow the game down and play at their pace by getting downhill and getting to the free throw line. And if they see open players like Caruso, Isaiah Joe, Lou Dort, and all these other guys that they have on the roster, Aaron Wiggins, Kenrich Williams, become available off of those drives and get kicked out to open threes or open lanes. And by the way, this team has two players, Lou Dort and Jalen Williams, who were on the all defense teams. And obviously Caruso, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Chet Holmgren are all guys who should have been worthy of that consideration as well. And we all know that the Thunder are going to be playing a physical defense that is going to try to stop this free-flowing, fast-paced offense that the Pacers run. And they're going to make sure that the Pacers are going to have to play through contact to move from one action to the next and not allow them to, get past these defenders or be able to beat the switches, because this is going to be a team that, guards early, switches late. So to me, I think the Thunder have enough defensive talent that the Pacers will not be able to find easy targets as they did against the Knicks. And that allowed obviously the Pacers to expose the porous defenders that some of the Knicks players are. And the Pacers will not be able to do that against the Thunder. I think that's the biggest thing, is that it's going to be a harder game. So what the Thunder are going to do is they're going to maintain their discipline, keep the ball moving, find scoring options, and let their playmakers make the plays and do what they've done all year. All right, let's talk about the Pacers. All right, now let's discuss why the Pacers should be deemed a credible throw. I think Indiana has shown they're supposed to be here, and that's been proven true all postseason. Every time they were counted out, they've responded with execution, depth, and resilience. They beat seasoned teams. They took down the Knicks despite, the pressure and the intensity that Madison Square Garden is. And then I think the biggest thing is that when you look at this, Rick Carlisle is an NBA champion, and his ability to outcoach opponents with tactical adjustments is huge. And the Thunder are elite, but the Pacers are tested and adaptable. Haliburton's elevation, I would say, and evolution of his game has been great. And yes, Tyrese has had rough moments in this playoffs, and that was against some of the East's most physical defenses. But what has mattered is that he's bounced back. This is a guy who's averaging almost 20-9, 18-9, orchestrating the league's most efficient postseason offense. This is a guy who doesn't turn the ball over, creates mismatches into the flow of the game, and just does what the defense gives him. And if the Thunder want to pressure Haliburton like the Knicks did in Game 5, they better have a backup plan for Indiana's lethal off-ball movements. This is because Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard are both healthy, and two guys who can play off of Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Haliburton, which I think makes this team that much more lethal. Another thing is Pascal Siakam's like the third best power forward in the NBA, which I think people don't realize how good he's been for this team. And Siakam knows how to punish rotations. Siakam gives Indiana the one thing OKC does not have is I guess Alex Caruso is their championship pedigree player, but they have a big playoff proven championship pedigree forward who can post up against smaller defenders, attack closeouts, facilitate when double teamed. OKC dominated the paint scoring in the March game, partly because Chet Holmgren wasn't playing and they were able to, go with Isaiah Hartenstein, and now he is, but so is Siakam, and Siakam wasn't playing in that game either. So Siakam, who leads all Pacers in playoff scoring, is going to help out the Pacers, who also, Obi Toppin, has become this duo with Siakam. Both of them can stretch the floor and attack mismatches and basically replace one another in the rotation. And Indiana's X factors, really, we're talking SGA, Dort, J-Dub, rightfully so, but Indiana has depths that make them an underrated part of this matchup. Aaron Nesmith is a versatile defender who can guard both SGA and J-Dub. Andrew Nembhard has been elite as a decision maker and as someone who can be a timely scorer. Ben Shepherd and TJ McConnell give Rick Carlisle the flexibility of tempo and spacing. And the Thunder defense is elite, but unlike Minnesota or Dallas, Indiana has 5 guys on the court who can make plays at all times. And that's the antidote to pressure defense. And the transition control and efficiency are a wash, not a Thunder advantage. The Thunder pride themselves on shutting down the fast break, but so do the Pacers. Pacers rank number 1 in limiting transition points, and the Thunder rank 2. That means OKC won't get as many free buckets to fuel their runs. And when the game slows down, Indiana's half-court offense built on motion, screening, and counters will test OKC's switches way more than they did against past opponents. So that's the most interesting part about that. With all that being said, what do we think is going to happen? Now, look, this is a season where I think anything is possible. OKC has the spacing, the depth, and the defense to overwhelm Indiana. I'm a firm believer that you need a great defense to win a championship, and OKC has it. It's been the best defense in the NBA, both in the regular season and the playoffs. They have they literally have 15 puppets on one string. Anthony Edwards describing OKC's defense. So the J-Dub and Hartenstein matchup nightmare, where J-Dub thrives in the mid-range and Turner's drop coverage plays right into that. Williams dropped 18 and 6 in that game, and now with Chet Holmgren and the size of Hartenstein, it's just going to create a lot of mismatches. And the Pacers, as good as they are, Indiana's offense is elite, but they don't have the best rim protection. And outside of Nembhard, Nesmith, Turner, and Pascal Siakam, you could say they're a bit more vulnerable defensively. And the Thunder are going to play with the spacing, the pace, and the physicality, and their transition defense is going to try to neutralize Indiana's fast break. And the Thunder's transition defense is the one thing that will limit Indiana's biggest advantage. Now, Indiana's X factors, Nesmith, Nembhard, and Pascal Siakam, we're going to have to defend elite scores without fouling and then produce on offense, which is going to be a tall task against OKC's swarming defense. I think this will be a 6-game series. If OKC locks in early, Indiana might only steal 1 game or 2 games. But I think Rick Carlisle will find adjustments and the Pacers will win their 2 home games and push it further. But ultimately, the Thunder's defense depth and SGA's MVP play will be too much, and OKC's here to stay, and it feels like the start of their championship window.